Welcome to Insight, everyone. I'm Nnamdi Odipo. On this episode, we review the status of an initiative to help protect hundreds of schools in Nigeria in response to the growing number of attacks on the right to education in the country. We'd also dedicate a significant part of this episode to the Nigerian woman, of course, in commemoration of the International Women's Day. I will be talking about the plight of the rural woman and the girl child, and Elizabeth Omoru is on hand to push the conversation further. Elizabeth?
Well, as we celebrate women globally, we will be taking a look at the future of women in a COVID-19 world, prospects and challenges.
Let's get the conversation started. And so let's begin. The Safe Schools initiative was launched in 2014 and envisioned to begin by reaching more than 500 schools in the northern states of Nigeria through a $10 million fund pledged by a coalition of Nigerian business leaders working with the United Nations Special Envoy for Global Education, as well as the former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown, and some of the Global Business Coalition and for Education, and another group, a word at school. I mean, it's also a group that was part of the arrangement. Well, let's attempt to get a sense of what has happened since then and where we are currently. I have with me, joining me in the studio, Professor Rosemary Udozo. She is from the University of Abuja. She is a professor of education administration and planning. Welcome to Insights, Prof.
Mr. Nnamdi, good morning, good afternoon. How are you? And
very well,
good
Prof.
to see you again.
Very well, Prof. Prof, let's kickstart this conversation on the Safe Schools initiative. I mean, you have an idea of when it started and how it was supposed to help in building community security groups to promote safe zones for education, of course, consisting of teachers, parents, police, community leaders, and young people themselves. One would know for a fact that in the longer term, the program would reinforce the safety of schools by providing school guards and police in partnership with the Nigerian authorities. I mean, it was also supposed to encourage the training of staff as school safety officers and provide counselors to schools at risk or in danger of attack. I did not see this happening or a semblance of any of this happening in any of the schools attacked in the last year or two. I don't know if you perhaps know if it is happening right now in any public school in any of the vulnerable parts of the north or perhaps the northeast, Prof.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nnamdi. The Safe School initiative was launched in Nigeria on the 9th of May, 2014. Before then, it had been a global cry out because of what was happening to education then. As a result of campaigns, studies, database creation, a lot of people cried out that education was terribly under attack. And at global level, countries of the world formed serious coalition for provision of safe schools. When we talk of safe schools, the schools themselves and the learning environment within the schools. As this was pronounced and launched in Nigeria by business leaders at the World Economic Forum held in Nigeria in that 2014. It was supposed to be regional attempt at providing safe schools and safe school learning environments. Nigeria endorsed it. A lot of funds were pledged at the launching, and some plan were rolled out. What should be done at schools level, at community level, and intergovernmental level. What you said were some of them,
yes,
and even more. Seriously, they would have, or we anticipated the training of school personnel to start Because then a lot of emphasis were laid on Northeast.
Yes.
Because that was the zone seriously under attack as at then.
Still is.
With IDP camps all over the place, communities being displaced on daily basis, massively children being pushed away from their learning environment. These actions were declared and launched in 2014. We thought the situation would have improved by now. Now they are not here to criticize who did well and who didn't do well. But what we are here to discuss is to look at what's supposed to be done to arrest the situation that is worsening every day.
Very true.
From what we see on the media, from the media reports every day, the situation is really getting out of hand.
That's why, Prof, I will ask you this and very quickly to a two-part question. One, I mean, with stakeholder groups now still sounding the alarm, what are the long-term implications of short and long-term implications of continued attacks and invasion of schools? I mean, speak to that, speak to me in terms of the scale of the challenge, like you just said. And secondly, do you think we have had a lot of learning opportunities to keep improving safe schools, I mean, the safe school initiatives made by, I mean, maybe by attracting new partners to fund, support, promote, and reach more children with quality and safe learning opportunities?
Yes. First of all, let me highlight the challenges right now.
Yes,
the implications of what is happening. From analysis and from what I learned about education, I read education in the university for 13 good years. Education is the real superstructure on which every society is built. The great nations of this world we know build their greatness in their classrooms. It's unfortunate that that particular concept, that particular structure that is building every society is being uprooted in Nigeria. The implication right now is that Nigeria is standing on a shabby foundation. Without education, the society is facing serious future implications. Not only now. Right now, the situation is terrible. It's unthinkable. It's disheartening. Education is a serious wing which every nation must possess if you want to fly. And once you don't possess education, you stand on a stagnated, obsolete, outdated platform. And the rest of the world providing good education will be revolving around a new orbit of scientific, technological, and entrepreneurial development. Accelerated, for that matter. But where are we? It's terrible when the situation of attacks on education became all over the place in 2014. These leaders came together, pledged funds to arrest the risk areas, to make sure that education is safe. But today, it has escalated, not only in Northeast, Northwest, North Central, everywhere. Teachers are no more safe. Learners are no more safe. Parents are not safe because I've read of cases where they go there, they also kidnap family members. Tell me, Mr. Nnamdi, if parents become afraid of sending their children to school, what becomes of this society?
It brings me to the question of, I mean, we've identified, apparently we know what the challenges and problems are. I mean, how do we begin to take action? Because that is what is necessary at this time.
Yes, we need to take proactive actions immediately. First of all, let every Nigerian, adults, youth, learners, sit back to ask the question, why, how did we get to where we are today? How did we find ourselves in this mess? How did we plunge ourselves into this pit? Whether we like it or not, we are in the pit. We are in a mess. Rotting every day. Because any attack on education is attack on the society.
Prof, let's quickly run along here, because I mean we can keep talking about this problem and how it affects, you know, different aspects of education. I'm also interested in how it affects the girl child, because even before now we've had issues of girl child education, and I mean apparently it would affect both the girl child and the boy child, children generally in schools. But Prof, can we, and is it possible, because we're losing time here, to begin to evolve a solution like the ones being put out there by some experts and analysts based on data analytics, saying that it's possible to have a convergent, like a formation of a mega school broken into sections where we can have morning, afternoon, and evening sections, and so that schools in vulnerable areas and, you know, communities can be pulled together. I mean, and their students pooled together to form a larger population, and then structured in a way that they do not lose access to safe quality education, and they do not lose education at all.
Yes.
Is that a system that works?
It can, if we say yes. The world belongs to those who say yes, we can.
Okay.
And they pursue it vigorously and rigorously.
Okay.
If we come up with such arrangement, Mr. Nnamdi, what we need to do is to follow it up sincerely. It can work. But one thing we should know, there should be provisions of facilities, educational facilities. Without being told, you know, the population of such larger schools will explode. There will be more demands for instructional facilities.
Very true.
Then school personnel, first and foremost, is not just arranging and putting people in place. We have to come up with serious physical protection of our schools. What are those things that will provide security to the schools? Some of these schools around, if you go there, some of these federal government colleges, with the exception of few private schools, you go there, you find out that the physical environment of the schools are so porous. No walling, no perimeter fencing. How can you leave 2,000, 1,000 or 1,500 students for just one security man? A security man who has no gun, no machete. A security man who goes to sleep. A security man who does not even have any gadget to communicate either the school authority or the larger society in sight of any emergency. We have to come up with effective and sincere implementation of declarations of the Safe School Initiative in 2014. There was serious emphasis on intercommunication system.
Yes.
That it must be put in place. And the school personnel trained untimely intervention. Once you see something, say something. Because before 200 or 300 students are marched out of school premises midnight, there must be movements, no matter how slight, during the day.
Very true.
Yes. So we have to put people to be on alert. And more seriously, communities would take responsibility for schools within their areas.
Prof, very, very quickly before I wrap this up, because we're completely out of time now, I have been wondering actually how developments like this would affect the psyche, I mean mental well-being of children generally in schools. I am wondering, children would be concerned about their mental state. I mean, whether we get them a place to continue their education in a safer environment, should it end at that, or should we try to carry out some sort of trauma management for them even before we return them to schools? And of course, also how it affects the psyche of other children, seeing and hearing what their parents are either saying at home about what is happening to these other people in vulnerable parts. Is that likely to also affect them psychologically?
Of course. Everybody knows that. You don't need to be a professor of education before you know that. The children, they have different types of conducive learning environment. The physical is what I have just talked about. The psychological or social learning environment is what you are talking about. These students, they've been taken away by unknown faces. They have been there within unknown environments. Suddenly they are brought back. Worse still, if they know one or two persons didn't come back. Let me tell you, fear is a serious weapon of defeat. Because the fear you create in these students psychologically will remain with them for a long time. They will be afraid to be in that school, or any school for that matter. They will feel that, they will develop that feeling of insecurity. They will be suspicious of anybody that enters the school premises. Psychologically, their minds will not be at rest.
Very true.
How do we teach in an environment where students feel unsafe? Lamdi, you are in the media. I don't know whether you read what I came across last week. It could be a fake news, where one of those students released some week or week before last recognized faces of some fathers of their schoolmates.
It was actually in circulation.
Was it? Did you read it?
It was quite. I read about it actually when one of the.
Is that true? If that is true, that is terrible. Then communities of the school have a lot to give in. It means members of the community conniving with whoever that is doing this. If the students see parents of their mates among those who march them into the bush, how safe do they feel? There should be a lot of counseling.
Well, we don't know if that is true for now. We're yet to
Yes, that's
ascertain
why
that,
I said
whether
if it is true.
Yes, very true, Prof. I want to thank you so much. It's been an insightful conversation. I mean, safe school environment is something that we must do as a matter of urgency. Just so we boost confidence within the system and help our children go back to school and to feel safe while they learn. Professor Rosemary Udozo, Professor of Educational Administration and Planning, University of Abuja, I want to thank you so much for coming on Inside. It's been quite a pleasure speaking with you on this quite delicate matter. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank you very much, Mr. Odipo. Nnamdi, you are doing a good job.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, you are doing a good job.
Thank you, ma'am. We're still in the wake of the International Women's Day, and even as we commemorate that significant event, we're reminded that as progress has been made to overcome gender prejudices and promote equality and equity, women and of course the girl child continue to face modern challenges. There are also a number of underlying issues such as poverty and minimal presence of economic empowerment, especially amongst women in the grassroots. To speak to this issue, I have joining me via Zoom from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom capital, wife of the state governor, Her Excellency Martha Udom Emmanuel. Welcome to Insight, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
I was looking through some articles quite recently and came across your comments on women and youth empowerment in rural communities. Just so I give my viewer an idea of your take on the subject matter, how much of a challenge do you think we still have on our hands with regards, what I have termed feminization of poverty? And how best to tackle the issue of empowerment of women and elderly persons as well, especially those without some level of social safety net. Please do begin with the problem first and then move on to how best you think we can undo the challenge.
Thank you very much. As you rightly said, we have a lot of challenges with regards to empowerment of women in the rural areas. And what we can do, or let me start by talking about the challenges first. First, these women are not privy to any form of, let's say, loans or grants that can help them to stabilize or improve whatever they are doing. That's number one challenge. Number two, the men are always of advantage than the women in the rural areas. If you want to talk about giving something to people in the rural areas, it will always go to the men. So women are always queuing behind the men, and because of that, they don't have privilege to such grants or loans that may be given to people in the rural areas to improve on their businesses. So what we do now is to try to empower women in the local environment. Some months ago, I launched out a multi-purpose cooperative, interest-free loan cooperative. And that will give women a chance, an opportunity to come out and collect these loans and improve on their businesses. And we are targeting rural women mostly, even though it's open to few other youths or men, but women, most especially because women are the pillars in their homes. They are the one that takes care of everything in their home. I'm not saying men do not do that, but if we are to be realistic, you know that a woman that has 1,000 naira can use that 1,000 naira to feed the whole family. The man that has 1,000 naira cannot use 1,000 naira to feed the whole family. So it's imperative that we empower women in all ramifications in the rural area.
When we talk about deprivation, we often talk about lack of access to, basic things, health, education, and poor housing and a lot of that. But let me talk about access to healthcare delivery services, and I would like to have your take on the issue of public healthcare. How disadvantaged are women and how disadvantaged are women and girls, especially people without access to quality and affordable healthcare, especially in rural communities?
Yeah, healthcare delivery system is expensive all over the world. Before we came on board, primary healthcare centers were not working. I want to use this opportunity to thank my husband, the governor, His Excellency Governor Udo Emmanuel, because he has made primary healthcare centers function all through the local government areas. And as such, women can easily access the healthcare centers, especially in the area of delivery, maternity. He has declared free delivery for women to go there and put to birth. He has declared also free services for elderly and children from 0 to 5. So with this, the women and those people in the rural area can easily access the primary healthcare centers. And our secondary healthcare centers, that is the general hospitals also, he has put it in shape that you don't have to travel so long to get medical services. That is on the side of the government. On my own side, on NGO, my NGO, Ferret, we've been doing a lot of interventions, partnering with different organizations, including those from diaspora, to carry out interventions. And in such occasions, we've recorded a tremendous result. People that would never had access to treatments like surgeries, we've recorded a lot. We've partnered with NTA, Irish, and we had a lot of people that would never see again in their lives, their eyesight being restored. All those were free. So there's a lot of intervention from my NGO and from what the Excellency is doing. So I would say in my state now, healthcare delivery is accessible even to those women, or not women alone, people in the rural area.
Let's try and give it a broader outlook and perhaps look at it nationally now. And I'll stick to the issue of health and healthcare delivery, but then I would like to talk about that of the girl child. And I mean, of course, you're a mother, and knowing that there are certain negative cultural practices that have subsisted in spite of enlightenment and sensitization. I mean, of course, we'd have increases in public enlightenment and sensitization on issues like female genital mutilation. How can we begin to change perceptions in rural communities on these harmful practices? I mean, capable of affecting the psyche of the girl child. And I'm not just talking about your own states now, but of course, it's something that cuts across states generally. I would like for you to speak to that issue specifically, but of course, not limiting it to your state only.
Yeah, the case of genital mutilation is not rampant in Akwa Ibom, but as we said in our forum, Nigerian Governors' Wives Forum, is one of the cases that the states that are being affected, we encourage the governors' wives there to make sure that they sensitize people enough for them to know that it's a harmful practice that does not augur well for a girl child. And I can tell you that that is going on. We are having reports in our meetings that different governors' wives are doing that in their state. In my state, I don't have that issue. We don't have that issue. I've been putting my ears down to whether I will hear any of such cases, but I've not had any reports of female genital mutilation in my state. But in other states, my colleagues are doing all their best to make sure they stop this harmful practice.
Good enough, but I'll stick with this question. I would like your personal take on the matter. I mean, at this point in time, 21st century Nigeria, do you think this is something that we should, we should still be experiencing? And I mean, you're also you're not a policy maker, but you're part of the process and knowing your position as well in governance. If you had an opportunity, what would you do to stop female genital mutilation in Nigeria?